Hello students, welcome back, and in this video lecture we will talk about amyloidosis. Amyloidosis is a proteoglycan. It is not just only protein, it is made up of protein as well as the carbohydrate component. So it is a proteoglycan. Now, what kind of protein this amyloidosis have? The kind of protein it has is a misfolded protein. So it is not just a normal protein, it is a kind of abnormal protein. So it is misfolded protein, and this protein is seen outside the cell. So it is extracellular protein. So proteoglycan is the composition of amyloidosis. What is amyloidosis? It is actually a misfolded protein, and that is seen outside the cell, that is seen extracellularly. This is a kind of rare disease that we not normally see in case of our clinical practice. So let's talk about the two kinds of amyloidosis that we have. One is the primary amyloidosis and another one is the secondary amyloidosis. So remember one thing, that is, we are going to have amyloid protein that is present. It is a misfolded protein, right? It is a misfolded protein that is seen outside the cell extracellularly. So in amyloidosis, we are going to talk about that this protein, misfolded protein, is present in any cell or any tissue, and then we call this as amyloidosis. So the case we have in primary amyloidosis, in fact, the only example of primary amyloidosis is multiple myeloma, which is the cancer of plasma cells. So multiple myeloma, which is the cancer of plasma cells, there is increase in the plasma cells that are seen in multiple myeloma, as we know. And what is the function of plasma cell? To produce antibodies. So if there is increase in the plasma cells, then we will have more of immunoglobulin G. In fact, not only the antibodies are more, in fact, the antibodies have excess of light chains. We know that in antibody, we have light chain and heavy chain, two kind of chains that are present. But here, this is an abnormal condition. The antibodies are not normal here. We have excess of the light chain, and this light chain is deposited as AL protein. AL protein. What is AL? AL is amyloid, L for light chain. So it is an amyloid protein with excess of light chain, and we call it AL protein, amyloid light chain protein. This protein, when it is in excess, it get deposited in the kidneys. When it get deposited in the kidneys, then we call this condition as a myeloma kidney, because multiple myeloma, when it affects the kidney, it is known as myeloma kidneys. So this excess of proteins which are deposited in kidney, which are AL proteins, also they are going to get excreted in the urine, because a lot of protein will not be absorbed, it will be excreted in the urine. And then these proteins are known as Bence-Jones protein. Remember, in multiple myeloma in the urine, we see Bence-Jones protein. So BJP, which is Bence-Jones protein, which is seen in BJP, is seen in MM, multiple myeloma. So BJP, which is seen in multiple myeloma. Bence-Jones protein are nothing but those AL proteins that are excreted in the urine. Then if you see in the urine, you will find these light casts. What are these light casts? See, this is a tubule. This is a tubule. Inside the tubule, you can find these cracks, white cracks that are present. So these are the light chain casts that are present in the kidney, and they're referred as the pink with the white color gaps or cracks. You can see the kidney is a lot of pink color. So the fractured cast, because it have a pink areas with the white gaps. That is why it appears like a cast. So it is light chain cast, very much pink color of the kidney. That is because of the light chain, excess of light chain is present. So the only example of primary amyloidosis we have is multiple myeloma. Multiple myeloma is cancer of plasma cells. Plasma cell synthesizes antibodies. So if there is increase in the plasma cells, see, this increase in the plasma cells is not normal. It is abnormal. It is cancerous. So these cancerous plasma cells are going to form antibodies, and these antibodies have got excess of light chain, and they are amyloid light chain protein. And when it gets deposited in the kidney, it is known as myeloma kidney. Then this protein is also excreted in the urine, and it is known as Bence-Jones protein. So this is primary amyloidosis. The only example for primary amyloidosis we have is multiple myeloma. So there are two kinds of amyloidosis. We have finished with the primary amyloidosis. Let's talk about the secondary amyloidosis. The secondary amyloidosis is also known as reactive amyloidosis. So what we know so far is the multiple myeloma, which is the only example for primary amyloidosis. And we have AL protein that is present, that is amyloid light chain. There is excess of light chain in multiple myeloma. Then in the chronic inflammation, now let's talk about all the examples for secondary amyloidosis. That means we'll be talking about specific organs. The chronic inflammation, it is associated with interleukin 6. So we have amyloid associated with interleukin 6. See, in chronic inflammation in cancers and in familial Mediterranean fever, all are amyloid associated with interleukin 6. Chronic inflammation except the chronic bronchitis, all the chronic inflammations like chronic pancreatitis or chronic colitis or anything that is chronic itis, chronic inflammation, will have amyloid associated with interleukin 8, but exception is chronic bronchitis. Now, the most common cause of secondary amyloidosis is rheumatoid arthritis. See, I told you it is a reactive amyloidosis. So the most common example being rheumatoid arthritis. Now, as I told you, all the cancers will also have the amyloid associated with interleukin 6, but majorly the cancers that we talk about associated with secondary amyloidosis are renal cell carcinoma and Hodgkin lymphoma. Familial Mediterranean fever. Mediterranean is the word that means it is present in the Mediterranean areas. Familial means it runs in the family history, and fever means it is accompanied with a fever component. So it is associated with the defect here is the pyrene gene defect. Now fever means pyrexia, easy to remember, pyrene gene defect. It also produces amyloid. So what happens in all of these? For example, in chronic inflammation, in cancers, and in case of familial Mediterranean fever, in all of these, what happens? There is increased level of interleukin 6. I told you it is associated with interleukin 6. Also, interleukin 1 is also involved, but interleukin 6 is the most common, most oftenly involved. So what happens? It is going to, when there is increase in the level of interleukin 6, it is going to go and act on the liver. In the liver, it releases something that is known as serum amyloid associated. So increase in the serum amyloid associated is seen there in the liver that releases the serum amyloid associated. So all of these conditions, for example, chronic inflammation, cancers, and Mediterranean fever, familial Mediterranean fever, they are amyloid that are associated with interleukin 6. Now coming to, let's start from the bottom, that is diabetes mellitus. Diabetes mellitus, it is amyloid islets pancreatitis polypeptide. Amyloid islets pancreatitic polypeptide. That means, because we know that in the diabetes there is islets in the pancreas that are affected, and there is deposition of amyloid. In hemodialysis, that is in kidney, there is A beta 2 amyloid, that is beta 2 microglobulin. Beta 2 microglobulin. Now what happens in case of hemodialysis in kidney? In kidney hemodialysis, all of the patient kidneys are not functioning, and therefore the patient is on hemodialysis. Now there is a hemodialysis machine. This machine is going to take all of the urine and it will filter out. But this beta 2 microglobulin, this cannot be removed. And therefore there is increase in the level of beta 2 microglobulin, and then it is deposited in the kidneys. So this is why we say that amyloid is deposited in the kidneys for hemodialysis patient. For the Alzheimer's disease, we know that it is a disease of the brain. In this case, there is A beta, that is beta plaque formation is seen. Beta plaques are formed. Beta plaques are formed in the brain. So how to remember? We have one brain, we have two kidneys. So A beta is for brain, that is Alzheimer's disease, and A beta 2 is for hemodialysis, because we have two kidneys. A beta and A beta 2, this is how you can remember. A beta for Alzheimer's disease, A beta 2 for hemodialysis patient. Now coming to familial amyloidotic polyneuropathy. In this case, and also in systemic senile amyloidosis, there is ATTR. ATTR. What is TTR? Let's talk about TTR first. TTR is a protein that is transthyretin. Transthyretin protein. What is transthyretin protein? Trans means it is going to transport. Thyro words means it transports the thyroid hormone, as well as it transports the retin. Retins mean retinoic acid, which is vitamin A. So this is a protein that transports thyroid hormones, that transport retinoic acid, that is vitamin A. So this is a protein which is transthyretin. TTR is a protein. ATTR is amyloid. TTR which is transthyretin. So transthyretin protein that transports the thyroid hormone and that transports the retinoic acid, that is vitamin A. It has two problems. Either this increase in the quantity of TTR, either there is an increase in the quantity of the TTR, that means there is going to be excess amount of TTR. In that case, it results in systemic senile amyloidosis. So ATTR increase in the quantity. Quantity means there is going to be excess of this. Then if there is qualitative problem with the ATTR, that means it get mutated, then it results in familial amyloidotic polyneuropathy. So if there is problem associated with the mutant, I'm not writing the quality word because the quality, then you get confused between quantity and quality. So I've written increase in the quality means excess of number, excess in the number, excess in the number, excess in the age. That is how you can remember the word senile means old age. So excess number, excess age, that is how you can remember. Systemic senile amyloidosis, increase in the quantity. That means this TTR transthyretin, there is increase in the quantity of that, and familial amyloidotic polyneuropathy is mutated TTR. Now we are only left with medullary carcinoma thyroid. In this case, there is amyloid and increase in the calcitonin is seen in the medullary carcinoma of thyroid. So it is increase in the calcitonin and A for amyloid. So this finishes with the table of secondary amyloidosis. We have finished with chronic inflammation except chronic bronchitis, cancer, specifically renal cell carcinoma and Hodgkin lymphoma, and also familial Mediterranean fever. They are associated with increase in the interleukin. So amyloid associated with interleukin 6. Then medullary carcinoma of the thyroid, since there is increase in the calcitonin in medullary carcinoma of the thyroid, that is why everywhere A is written, that means deposition of amyloid is seen. A in the first letter means deposition of amyloid. Along with that, what happens? This is what we are talking about in the secondary amyloidosis. For example, in case of medullary carcinoma of the thyroid, there is amyloid deposition. Along with that, there is increase in the calcitonin. In systemic senile amyloidosis, there is amyloid deposition. Along with that, there is abnormal excess increase in the TTR, which is transthyretin, which is our transthyretin. What is transthyretin? Trans is transport, thyroid means thyroid hormone, retin means retinoic acid. So this is a protein that transports thyroid hormone and retinoic acid, which is vitamin A. So there is increase in the quantity. For familial amyloidotic polyneuropathy, there is abnormal deposition of amyloid. Along with that, there is mutated TTR transthyretin. Alzheimer's disease, disease of brain, there is beta plaque formation that is seen, and it is A beta type of amyloid deposition. A beta 2 amyloid deposition is seen in hemodialysis patient. So Alzheimer's A beta, hemodialysis A beta 2. One brain we have, two kidneys we have. This is how you can remember A beta for Alzheimer's disease, disease of brain, hemodialysis, disease of kidney, A beta 2. There is deposition of beta 2 microglobulin. Then diabetes mellitus, APP, which is amyloid islets pancreatic polypeptide. Multiple myeloma is an example for primary amyloidosis. In this, there is excess of light chain. Along with that, there is amyloid. So there is AL protein, excess of light chain protein that is seen and deposited in the kidneys. Now coming to the next table. That means this table tells about how this amyloid is deposited, where the amyloid is deposited, deposition of amyloid in the different organ, how this amyloid is deposited and where. In the kidneys, it is most commonly deposited. We have also studied in multiple myeloma or in familial amyloidotic polyneuropathy. We know that there are certain conditions, and most commonly this amyloid, where it get deposited in the kidney. This is normal scenario. But if it is asked that in the old age, where most commonly amyloid is deposited. Now, most commonly you see in the old age, patient gets heart attack, and this is how you can remember. In the heart, most commonly it is deposited in the old age and heart. So amyloid most commonly is deposited in the kidney. But if they ask most commonly amyloid deposition in the old age, then it is heart. So in the kidney, it is deposited in the mesenterium, and it represents clinically as the nephrotic syndrome. In the heart, it is deposited in subendocardium. Endo means endo, kind of endothelium layer, but cardium means it is of heart. So endothelium of the heart is endocardium. So in the subendocardium, this amyloid is deposited and it clinically represents as restrictive cardiomyopathy. Nephrotic syndrome in kidney and restrictive cardiomyopathy in heart. As I told you, subendocardium is the area where it gets deposited in the heart. So in the blood vessel, it gets deposited in the subendothelium. Very easy to remember. Subendocardium for heart, subendothelium for blood vessels. When it gets deposited in the liver, the area is space of Tissé. And in the spleen, in the red pulp, it is known as, when it gets deposited in the red pulp. And remember, what is the Hindi of red? It is lal, so you can remember that it is lardaceous spleen in the red pulp. And sabudana is white color, right? So white pulp, it is the sago spleen. Lardaceous for red pulp. And when it gets deposited in the white pulp, it is known as sago spleen. Skin, it is pinch purpura. So what happens? If you pinch the skin, it appears very reddish color. And that is pinch purpura. Why this reddish color occur? Because of the amyloid deposition in the subendothelial layer of the blood vessel. That is why the blood vessels become very weak. And this is the reason that on pinching, it gives pink color purpuric rashes. In the GIT, or in fact anywhere in the body, when there is amyloid deposition, the organ is going to become big and fat. So there is going to be organomegaly. And one such example that we see is amyloid deposition on the tongue creates the macroglossia. It gives the features of macroglossia. The tongue become very large. So large tongue is a feature of amyloid deposition on the tongue. So basically organomegaly, all the organs become fat and thick, big and fat. Joints, it is associated with a patient that undergo hemodialysis. So as we have already discussed, remember in the last table in the hemodialysis that we have studied beta 2 microglobulin is the one that is deposited because it cannot be removed in hemodialysis. So the joints deposition of amyloid is associated with the patient specifically that undergo hemodialysis. And in these patients, you can see pain in this particular area of the thumb, and that is carpal tunnel syndrome. In carpal tunnel syndrome, the median nerve is affected. So this is the involvement in the hemodialysis patient, that is the joint involvement. So as I told you, all the organs becomes big and fat. So organomegaly is something that is seen, but in the kidney, initially there is organomegaly everywhere. Every organ will become big and fat. But in the kidney, later on, in the later stages, initially in kidney also, it will show organomegaly. Kidney will also become big and fat, but in later stages, we see shrinkage in the kidneys. Otherwise, all the organ will show organomegaly. If you see the gross finding in amyloidosis, as I told you, most commonly organ for deposition of amyloids are kidney, except for the old age, it is heart. So most commonly it is the kidney that are affected, and you see the kidney becomes very waxy. So waxy, if you see anywhere, any organ waxy, that signifies amyloid deposition. So the stain that we use, gross stain that we use, is the Lugol's iodine stain. And when you use this Lugol's iodine stain, you will find mahogany brown color. Mahogany brown color. So gross staining on Lugol's iodine, it is the mahogany brown color that is seen. This is the most important thing on the gross finding that you need to remember, that for gross stain that we use is the Lugol's iodine, and it gives you mahogany brown color. But on top of that, if you add sulfuric acid, then it turns into the blue color. That is something that we can do to check the amyloid deposition. But most importantly that you need to remember is on Lugol's iodine, it gives mahogany color. Coming to microscopic staining. Gross staining we have done, Lugol's iodine, it will give mahogany color, and if you add sulfuric acid on top of that, it will give you blue color. Coming to microscopic staining on the light microscope, this gives a salmon pink color. All the fish lovers people can understand this, and can actually remember this. The salmon pink color or red stains are seen as the amyloid deposition. The best stain is the Congo red stain, and red color, if it gives on Congo red, this is the Congo red stain that you can see, and it gives red stain or salmon pink color stains. On the polarizing microscope, It gives apple green birefringence. So you can actually see the apple green color. Apple green color birefringence is a classical feature of amyloidosis on the polarizing microscope. This you need to remember. This is asked in second year. This is asked in NEET exam. Very, very, very important point. Actually for amyloidosis, the takeaway point from this lecture, most important, is apple green birefringence, which is seen on which microscope? On the polarizing microscope. See, apple, you can see this. This is birefringence. That is kind of, this appears like this is not a light microscopic. This is birefringence, that you can see the light is coming out. So it is a polarizing, you can see it is actually a polarizing kind of thing. So it is seen on polarizing microscopy. Thioflavin T is on the UV light. Methyl violet, crystal violet, and past stains, all of these stains give the positive amyloid. Deposition is seen. On the electron microscopy, this is a picture of electron microscopic view. You can see these long strands, very long fibrils. And these fibrils are not branching anywhere. They are independently standing, and the length is actually indefinite. Unlimited length. You cannot calculate their length. Length is indefinite length. But the diameter actually can be calculated. You can see the diameter of these fibrils, non-branching fibrils, is 7.5 to 10 nanometer of diameter. While on the other hand, length is unlimited, indefinite length. We cannot measure the length. And these are non-branching fibrils on the electron microscope. You know, nowadays, the point that we used to remember was only these points, like apple green birefringence or the non-branching fibrils. We never used to remember in our times that it is an electron microscopy view, it is a polarizing microscope. Now that nowadays we are trying to understand more and mug up less, so we know for polarizing means some kind of light is coming. And birefringence, if you see, this is some kind of light is coming. You can see that actually if you look at the picture, and you can easily remember that it is apple green birefringence. And by looking at this picture, you can tell that this is a picture of light microscope. You can tell this is a picture of polarizing microscope, or this is a black and white picture of the electron microscope. So by looking at, but our days in college, we used to have this chalk and board representation, and there was no textbooks opened in the classrooms, right? So we never used to take the textbooks. So what was the thing at that point of time was we used to mug up all the things. Only important point like non-branching fibrils. But nowadays we have such a good technology that we can actually look at the pictures, and then we can understand the things clearly rather than mugging up. So if you see black and white pictures, the zoom picture black and white, that means it is an electron microscopy. This is a polarizing light microscopy. And while actually you're looking at the pictures, you can recall and recollect things. So on the Congo red, which is the best stain, red color is seen. As the name suggests, Congo red means if it is positive, means red color stains are going to come for amyloidosis. Apple green birefringence, very important on polarizing microscope. And electron microscopy, there are no non-branching fibrils. They are standing like long sticks. So non-branching, there is no branching that is seen. On X-ray crystallography, it shows beta-pleated structure, and that is the reason it is responsible for apple green birefringence on polarizing light. But you know, nowadays the kind of question they ask is beta-pleated structure is seen on which. So beta is something that represent a single letter represent on its own. Likewise, we have X-ray. A single letter starts from a single letter. So this is how you can also remember that beta-pleated structure for X-ray crystallography. And in fact, the apple green birefringence is because of the beta-pleated sheath, that is the structure of this amyloid deposition. For sample collection, earlier we used to take rectal biopsy. We know that biopsy is a gold standard if you are taking a sample collection. But rectal biopsy is very much invasive. So we have a good collection technique, that is abdominal fat aspiration. And this is much more preferred technique over the rectal biopsy. So nowadays, we use the abdominal fat aspiration for the collection of amyloidosis. How much of the body is affected? What is the extent of amyloidosis? That we see in scintigraphy. In scintigraphy, it measures SAP. The 5% of the, almost 5% of the amyloid is made up of SAP, and it measures the SAP. So how much of the body is affected? That we see with the help of scintigraphy. So people who have amyloidosis, as I told you, it is a rare condition, but people who have amyloidosis, they are associated with factor 10 deficiency. If you can recall, factor 10 is from our common pathway. It is where the common pathway starts. We have clotting mechanism in that, intrinsic, extrinsic, and then both of these merge at the common pathway, that is factor 10. And then finally, from factor 1A, factor 1 is formed, that is fibrin or the blood clot is formed. This is a clotting mechanism, right? This is what we have studied. So factor 10, the people who have amyloidosis, they have deficiency of this factor 10. That means factor 10 is not present in these amyloid deposited patients, that is amyloidosis patient. If factor 10 is not present, that means clot will not form, because this is a common pathway. Either it is intrinsic or extrinsic, it is going to merge into common pathway. If factor 10 is not formed, if you're not able to understand, please go to the immunity, go to that clotting mechanism wala chapter, and then just run this part of the video, and then you will be able to understand that we have intrinsic pathway, extrinsic pathway. This is the clotting pathway that we are talking about, and both of these merge at the common pathway, that is factor 10. And from factor 10, we have the fibrin, that is the blood clot that is formed, right? So amyloid is attracting factor 10 on their surface, and amyloid is actually trapping all the factor 10, and therefore the patient have deficiencies. Because amyloid is attracting factor 10 to their surface, so amyloid is trapping all the factor 10 that is available in the body, and that is why in the body there gets deficiency of factor 10. So people who have amyloidosis will have a deficiency of factor 10. Since factor 10 is forming the clot, therefore these people will have bleeding manifestation, because clot is not formed in these patients. Because that is due to adsorption of the factor 10 on the surface of amyloid. Therefore, these people will have deficiency of factor 10, and therefore these people will have the bleeding manifestation, because clot is not formed, because common pathway is not formed. So therefore, these people will have bleeding manifestations. Clinically, they will show the bleeding manifestations. So this is about amyloidosis. The takeaway point that you need to remember, that is apple green birefringence seen on the polarizing light. On the X-ray crystallography, this beta plated sheet is seen. So these things you need to remember. And the only example for primary amyloidosis is the multiple myeloma. And all the things, all the three tables that we have studied, this also you need to remember. So guys, this is about amyloidosis. All the best.